And so, first off, I apologize. I'm just getting over a cold. So, I may hack up along a time or two while I go through this. But inside of this training, what I want to go through is how to increase the speed, efficiency, and scalability of your marketing. And so, this question or this topic stems from a couple of questions that I got from a new agent, new advisor who is just coming into the training advisor ecosystem. And so, he's, from what I understand, relatively new to the industry. Um, and so he's been doing a great job, like diving through a lot of YouTube trainings that we put out, a lot of content, going through some mini courses and stuff that we have published over the years. And so one of the things that he was asking was, okay, as I'm going out and I'm starting to prospect on the LinkedIn side, I feel like that's where my ideal clients are, my ideal market is. So, what do I say once I go and I connect with somebody on LinkedIn in order to transform them into a paying client? And so there's a couple of different ways to go about this, but it all comes there. There's a couple of ways to go about it, but with that being said, there's almost like a good, better, best ranking that you have to do in terms of figuring out where you're at today. How much time do you have on your hands? How much money versus time? Eventually, as you progress in your business, you're going to have more money than time. And that's where outsourcing things make sense, whether it's outsourcing to a team member, whether it's outsourcing to, technology or whatever it might be. And so I want to cover a number of different ways that you can go about this. And so typically on the LinkedIn side, we're looking at targeting a higher value client. Now, the way that I define that person is somebody that either has a lot of money or is making a lot of money. Now, with your business specifically, you may understand that the solutions that you provide are more relevant to a specific market, a more specific occupation, whether it's a business owner, a doctor, a contractor. And so that's where you kind of have to start diving into your specific niche. Now, when we go out and we start doing the targeting for an advisor on LinkedIn, so they're hiring us to go out and do the targeting, there is a kind of a standard cookie cutter template of different occupations and seniority levels inside of companies that I recommend. Now, the reason why I do that is because if somebody is a high earning executive or somebody is a high income earning doctor, dentist, whoever it might be, typically if you focus on retirement planning and your solutions surround life insurance, annuities, maybe you mix in AUM into the equation, a lot of times the mentality and the solutions surrounding that one individual are going to be the same, whether they are a C-level executive, whether they are a doctor, whether they're a dentist. Now, I understand that there are a lot of caveats in there. So where let's say somebody is an executive, you can wrap in executive bonus plans, or if somebody is a doctor that owns their practice, you can wrap in things like captive insurance or whatever it might be. I understand that there are different avenues, right? But to get the conversation started, to be able to understand where exactly that person is at, the mentality of a high income earner or a high net worth individual is going to be relatively the same. And so that's where I don't necessarily recommend diving into one specific occupation, such as registered nurses, or one specific occupation, such as doctors. There's inside of all marketing, there's a quantity and quality dance that you have to play to make sure that you're getting quality people coming through, but then you also have the quantity of those type of people coming through. So when somebody's going out on the LinkedIn side, the first thing you're going to be doing is optimizing your profile. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We've talked about it in a number of different trainings. If you don't know what those are, go back and take a look at those. But if you boil down what your goal is with any sort of marketing campaign, it's getting somebody over to a meeting. So understanding that that is our eventual goal. Down here below, I have all these different tools and resources that you can use in order to bridge the gap between you being on LinkedIn and getting somebody to a meeting. Now, let's go with the manual approach on the LinkedIn side. We're going to go both with manual and both with the lowest cost, okay? So on LinkedIn, you can go out to get a profile is completely free, okay? So going out, you can go type in the search bar on LinkedIn for doctor, for dentist, for certain occupations on the LinkedIn side. Now, the first step in that is going to be sending that person a connection request. Now, inside of LinkedIn, you have different degrees of connection. So first degrees are people that you are connected with that either you send them a connection request, they sent you one, and somebody accepted that connection request. So that's first degree. Now, second degree are connections that you have, are individuals that you have connections in common with, okay? So if I'm connected to Joe and Joe is connected to Sally, Sally and I are second degree connections. So we want to start targeting those second degree connections first, sending out the connection requests to those individuals because there's a higher likelihood that a second degree connection will accept our connection request. So going out, getting the connection request, again, this is going to be very foundational and basic for a lot of you who have been on our trainings. But with that connection request, we don't want to overcomplicate that process. The connection request script that is working the best for us right now is hey first name, can we connect, your name. Keep it nice and easy. All you're doing is extending your hand digitally, getting them to shake your hand. Now, once somebody has become a connection, they are a first degree connection on LinkedIn. This is where things get a little bit tricky if you're just diving into this process for the first time. So when you're on LinkedIn, I get a lot of questions about putting out content on LinkedIn with posts and newsletters and articles and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that stuff is bad. It's definitely good. It can definitely add to getting eyeballs on you, eyeballs on your services, eyeballs on your solutions. But where the most money is made on LinkedIn is inside of the messages. Now, when somebody goes out and they are doing this for the first time, they essentially you have to understand that if you don't have something like a lead magnet, an attraction magnet, a value-based offer, is there will be a lot of manual messaging that will take up your time in order to get somebody from a connection request to a meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and put send direct message inside of here. Okay. Now, if you're doing this manually, on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you're maxing out your connection requests every single day. LinkedIn has a limit on how many connection requests you can send out on a weekly basis, and that's use it or lose it. They don't carry over to the next week, so send out as many as possible. Now, when you're inside of the direct messages, what I will typically see with advisors when they first start messaging for the first time is something like this. And I'm going to zoom in on this so you can see it, okay? So let's go ahead. Let's put some arrows over here. So we got LinkedIn, connection request, we got our messages, and now from there, we're going to be going over to two types of messages, okay? Let's see. All right, now let me dive in. So what I will see the majority of the time is what you're seeing on the top right here, where you understand that, yes, you connected with your ideal client on LinkedIn. And so you're going to blast a sales pitch out to every single first degree connection. So the one that this advisor was sending out was, hi, Ken, I help busy professionals create a retirement income plan to enjoy a financial future they want for themselves and family. Call to see how I can help you. Reply or call too busy, schedule time here. So the problem with this sort of message is that you're hoping that when your prospect or when your connection sees that message, that their financial pain point is so high, it is so close to the surface that essentially they're willing to work with just about anybody to solve that financial pain point. Now, with enough volume going out there, something like that can work. It can you can catch somebody at just the right time, but with that approach, again, you're hoping that you catch them at the right time. Hope is a terrible marketing strategy, okay? We want to make sure that we're engineering our success. Now, inside of the second message, this is what I'll see a little bit more seasoned LinkedIn marketers start to do. So instead of going out and spraying a sales message, is they essentially use a Trojan horse offer or a Trojan horse message to get a business owner, to get an executive, to get a doctor on the phone. So with that Trojan horse message, this is somebody saying, essentially going in, and I see this 9 times out of 10. This is what is being taught by a lot of LinkedIn marketing companies out there where they're saying, hey, let's hop on an intro call. I love growing my network. I want to see if you can help me, if I can help you, right? Again, nothing inherently wrong about that. But if you've tried this before, or if you're looking at exploring it, what you're going to find is that you will essentially get somebody that may want to book a meeting with you, right? They're looking at growing their business. They're hungry like you are. They're like, hey, it's worth 15 minutes. So it's worth 10 minutes. But the quality of those conversations, you're going to end up spending a lot of time speaking with somebody who doesn't exactly know what you do or why they should talk to you, why they should give you the time of the day. And so you end up sifting through a lot of garbage in the process, trying to find somebody who even qualifies or is interested in your services, your solutions. Now, when you start looking at life insurance, you start looking at annuities, there are a lot of bad preconceived notions about each of those tools. Now, I'm a fan of them. I'm a fan of them in the right situation. But if I'm focused on selling annuities, the second I bring up an annuity to somebody and they go and Google it online, they're going to see a Ken Fisher sponsored ad. That happens the majority of the time. If you go type that into Google, you type in annuities, you're going to get a Ken Fisher sponsored Google search result that says, the truth about annuities, or if you have over $500,000, this is what you must know about annuities. Essentially, positioning annuities as a bad tool. Now, are they bad? I've seen them used in bad situations, but a lot of times they're just preconceived notions that are wrong about annuities. So this is what this, if you're going out and doing this manually, these are the types of messages that I will see the majority of the time. Now, is it bad? No, but going back to what I mentioned previously, there's a good, better, best way to go about this. Now, I'm going to walk through what I would do instead, even if you're doing this on the manual side, okay? So what we've found through marketing, and trust me, the reason why myself and Trend Advisor have got to the point that we are is that we have spent years testing out different strategies, years testing out different messages, different ways to communicate with folks, different ways to direct message people. I've tried these before. Can it work? Yes, it can work. Even for my business, I would go out, message advisors, say, hey, here's what I do. Would you want to meet? Now, the quality of folks coming in it was hit and miss across the board. Now, if you're going out on the LinkedIn side and you want to start attracting individuals as opposed to chasing them, what I highly recommend is positioning some sort of value-based offer that your ideal client, your ideal audience would be interested in getting their hands on. Now, there's a lot of different things that you can use. You can use webinars, and I've got all these listed out down below, okay? And I'm going to talk about a time and a place for each of those. So you can use, we've got physical books, we've got live webinars, we've got pre-recorded webinars, we've got calculators and reports, surveys, checklists. The list goes on and on of what you can use. Okay, if you are doing this for the first time and you don't have the software or the digital structure in place to be able to handle this at volume, that's okay. What I would recommend is pick out some sort of a lead magnet, some sort of value-based offer that will be attractive to your ideal audience that you can easily send them on a manual basis, okay? Now, what I mean by that is if you go look at your carriers that you're with, your IMOs, whoever's in your upline, typically there's going to be some sort of report, ebook, guide, video, something that you can position out in front of your audience, something that you can give away that is going to help them understand how you can solve their financial problems. Okay. So inside of here, what I've seen a lot of times, I'm thinking of one advisor in particular where he was trying to send out a survey. Okay. Now with the survey, it has valuable information on there. There's different ways to be able to position this as a value-based offer in front of your ideal audience. But the problem with that survey is that there was no immediate there was no immediate gratification for the prospect. Now, when I talk about immediate gratification, what I'm alluding to is they didn't know why they should take the survey. Once, like, assuming that they went through the survey, there was no reason, there was no pull for them to be able to do that. Okay. Now, what I've found through years of testing this is that by being able to offer physical books to connections on LinkedIn, this is the highest converting lead magnet or value-based offer that we have ever come across. Now, again, everything you see below, we have tested a number of times. But what we have found is that when you offer something physical to an individual, something that they can see, smell, touch, taste, hold, they immediately equate that at a higher value than something that they would receive digitally, even if the content is the exact same. So while ebooks, and I've got that down here, ebooks are going to be a much smoother and faster delivery to your prospects. You will have more people come through and request that if it's a physical book. Okay. Again, if you're looking at your budget, if you're looking at things like that, maybe you do start with an ebook until you get enough cash flow, until you can get a physical book inside of there. Now, what I'll tell you is that when you're picking out which book to send out to these individuals, the content of the book does not matter as much as the title and the cover of the book. We've gone through, and I'll give you a couple of different examples of books that focus on either getting to the 0% tax bracket or tax-free retirement planning. There are a number of great books out there and some that I prefer over others. But going through on the marketing side, one of the things that we always want to do is we want to make data-based decisions. We want to make sure that we remove our preconceived notions about whatever that book is or whatever the content is. We remove that from the equation and we think, what book is going to get me the most meetings? What book is going to get me the most qualified folks to come through and want to learn more? So with that, take a look at what books that you prefer, what you like, and just simply go test them. Now, again, if you're looking at if money or budget is an issue, take a look at doing an ebook. With a lot of marketing, done is better than perfect. And you don't have to, what's that? There's that Bible, basically or crawl before you walk, or crawl before you run, whatever, whatever that goes to. Or I think it goes into, make sure you like give babies milk before you give them meat. You guys know what I'm talking about. So if budget is an issue, if you're not sure how to go about it, or you're looking at saving a little bit of money in the process until you get that cash flow going, start with an ebook. Just done is better than perfect, and I can't stress that enough. But once you're ready to graduate to a more efficient and a higher converting process, that's where I highly recommend implementing that physical book. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see inside of here is that when an advisor starts offering some sort of a lead magnet, some sort of a value-based offer inside of the LinkedIn messages, and somebody wants it, they deliver that lead magnet directly inside of the LinkedIn messages. Now, the reason why we don't want to do that is because inside of this process, being able to capture information to nurture these individuals is extremely important. When it comes to retirement planning, financial planning, legacy planning, estate planning, business planning, oftentimes we don't know when somebody's going to be ready to move forward. It could be a week, a month, a year, 3 years. It's an individualized process for everybody that comes through. But the goal is that you want to make sure that when somebody is ready to move forward, that you position yourself to be that information source, because you have been that guide. You've been handholding them through that entire nurturing process. Okay. So instead of going through and delivering that ebook or that guide or that checklist inside of the message, one of the things that I would highly recommend is you have some sort of an opt-in page that you can send somebody to where you can request information from them, to where you can gather their information. Now, one of the things that I will tell you is that when you are offering this lead magnet on the front end, the more valuable the lead magnet is that you're offering them, the more information you're allowed to ask in order for them to get that offer. So let me say that again. The more valuable the lead magnet, the more information you can request from that individual. So let me contrast that with giving somebody like a webinar, okay? So a webinar is extremely valuable. There's a lot of great information inside of there, but it's not just the value of the webinar, it's the preconceived value or the presumed value of the webinar. When I'm sending somebody a physical book, again, if they go out on Amazon and they see that they can purchase that for $11, $20, whatever, there's automatically both intangible and tangible value attached to that offer. So if I'm offering somebody a webinar, I can ask for name and email at the very least. Maybe I can sneak in a phone number. But for something like a physical address, there's no reason on a webinar where I should be asking, or there's no reason in the prospect's eyes of why I would need to know their address if they're showing up to a webinar. With a physical book offer, that makes 100% sense. I have to ship that out to them. So now I'm able to get name, or first name, last name, email address, phone number, physical address. One of the things that I love about being able to get that physical address from somebody on the front end is that now I can go do more research on that one individual. So if I go and I look up on Zillow their address and I see that they live in, a multi-million-dollar home, all of a sudden, now I know that this person most likely has more money attached to their name versus if somebody is in an apartment complex, downtown in a not very nice area. Now I know, okay, this person probably not worth my time, probably not worth following apart. Now, is that person completely unqualified? We don't know, but that gives us some more information, and information is power, okay? Now, another thing that I see is that when somebody goes through and they start understanding the value of that landing page on the front end, I did a breakdown of a funnel audit on our YouTube channel it was probably about a year ago, give or take, where an advisor was going through and he was offering a really great book on on LinkedIn. And with that, I went through and talked about, things he can clean up on his messaging, things that that I would change in terms of like landing page structure and whatnot. But one of the biggest sins that I saw that advisor committing was after somebody went through to request that ebook, is they basically just took them to a confirmation page that said, thanks, check your email. Okay. Check your inbox. I'll be in touch shortly. Now, the reason that we don't want to just send somebody to a confirmation page that says thank you is what if I was a prospect that was ready to learn more? What if I was somebody that was, really excited about finally solving my financial problems and I was ready to take the next step? You want to make it abundantly clear to your audience what they can do to take the next steps if they are ready. So, what I'm going to do is instead of just a regular confirmation page, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a confirmation page with a meeting offer directly on that page. Now, what you'll find is that this will automatically increase the conversion rates of people that not only just, go and take advantage of your offer, but those that go through, take advantage of your offer, and then also want to book a meeting at the same time. Okay. Now, as we're going through, so we got the direct messages, we're going to the opt-in page. Wish I knew. There we go. We're going to the meeting offer. And then from there, we're going to go to the meeting. Okay. Now, again, this is all done manually for the most part. If you don't have the landing pages, if you don't have that infrastructure in place, all you need to figure out is how to kind of band-aid things together so that you can grab their information inside of the LinkedIn messages there to be able to ship them a book or something like that. And then from there, store those in your CRM. That's one of the things that I'm going to bring up inside of here. If you're not using a CRM or as a way to track each individual that comes through, I highly, highly encourage getting something in place. Now, one of our advisors this year has done almost $700,000 in commission just this year alone. One of the biggest things that we have done with this advisor that has made the biggest impact on their business is that we have gone through periodically, almost on a weekly basis, and gone through a list of leads one by one to say, hey, where's this person at? Where's that person at? Where's that person at? And what I found is that almost every single meeting that we have, doing a status check on every single lead, every single prospect, is that oftentimes the advisor will be like, oh, shoot, I was supposed to reach out to that person. Oh, hey, I had a great conversation with that person. Let me shoot him a text. Being able to organize your prospects is extremely important in this process. So from there, at the very least, when somebody requests that information, you've got to grab that and you've got to put that somewhere. I don't even care if it's a Google sheet to start out with, but put that somewhere that you're going to be able to you're going to be able to manage those individuals. Okay. Now, one of the things that I also recommend inside of this process is that you're going to hear me say this time and time again, is that your quickest path to cash is conversations. The reason for that is that when somebody comes through on the LinkedIn side, a lot of times people they will not keep their profiles up to date in terms of where they're at where they're at today. Okay. Now that can deal with like the location of where they're at. That can do with what their actual occupation is or the seniority level in the company. Things change and people just don't update their profile. Okay. It happens time and time again. So with each of these individuals, even if they come through and they request a book about getting to the 0% tax bracket, you don't know what their real financial pain points are. You don't know what keeps them up at night. You don't know what it is that you can potentially implement with them to secure their financial future. Okay. Now, more importantly, inside of there is that conversations are the one-to-one conversations are the best way to build a relationship with your prospects. You want them to know, like, and trust you. Okay. Now, I've heard a lot of people argue against the know, like, and trust factor of financial planning, but for high value clients and high value prospects, they want to have some sort of relationship with their financial advisor, with their retirement planner, some sort of relationship to where they understand that you are the authority figure and you are the subject matter expert, okay? At the very least. Now, if you've got a great personality and you can get that to shine through, that's just bonus points, all right? So what I recommend is in this process, because we're offering such a valuable lead magnet to that individual, where again, we have both the intangible value of what they're going to learn and how they're going to solve their financial pain points, combined with that tangible value of there's actual, money attached to that offer, is now we have asked for a good amount of information and we have earned the right to give them a follow-up phone call. We have earned the right from that value-based offer that we gave them to be able to follow up. Now, again, what I love about that physical book offer is that this is something that we have to ship out to that individual. This is something that is going to be going out in the mail. And so with that, in your prospect's eyes, a follow-up phone call to confirm their address makes 100% sense. That is something that is a natural progression or a natural step in their minds. Now, with that phone call, the purpose of that phone call is twofold. First, it is to confirm their address. Make sure the book is going to get to the right spot. But that opening premise is simply the conversation starter. It's the icebreaker. It's a way to get somebody to lower their guard and to understand, like, oh yeah, I do need to talk to this person. Okay. Now from there, we're going to flip the script a little bit. Okay. We're going to say, hey, just out of curiosity, what piqued your interest about this book and made you want to request it? Again, we are having a real conversation with a real person, so you can be real inside of there. Just, hey, just a natural curiosity. What piqued your interest about it? Now, from there, you're going to get answers all across the board. You're going to get somebody who is they're clammed up. They don't want to open up the financial skeletons in their closet. They're going to be a little bit tight-lipped. Now, that's okay. Don't think that because somebody doesn't want to open up that they're dead, they're not qualified. They simply don't know you well enough to be able to open up all their secrets. Okay. Now, that person is still I would still send that person the book. The reason for that is because when you send out that book to somebody, it activates the law of reciprocity. Every time they see that book, they're going to feel like they owe you, or they're going to think about the conversation, the interaction. Now, with that, when they are ready to move forward, if you have gone through and you had a conversation with that person, you're following up with that person, they understand what you do. There's no secrets. This is what I love so much more about that intro call that you have on LinkedIn, or that intro Trojan horse message, is when somebody goes through and they get that message and you offer this book, it's abundantly clear what you do. So every time they look at that book, they're going to be thinking about you. And when they have that triggering moment in their life where they're like, hey, I've got to take action, I've got to do something, there's a higher chance that they're coming back to you than if you had just talked to that person one time and then left them out to dry, right? So we're going to send out that book offer. Now, from here on this phone call, this is something that you want to make sure that you're not diving into what's a good way to say it? You want to make sure that you understand that this is not a formal meeting with somebody. This is not the time and the place to say, hey, here's an IUL. This is what an IUL can do for you. Or, hey, have you heard about the latest fixed index annuity? There's a 40% bonus with Allianz. That is not the time and the place for this. The phone call is simply a stepping stone to get somebody to that more formal meeting, that more formal conversation where you can dive more into their planning. Hey, what are you looking to accomplish? Hey, are you investing in a 401k? Hey, do you have an IRA? Hey, where do you want to go in the future, right? The purpose of this phone call is just to get them to that more formal meeting. This is exactly where we want to get them to, okay? This is the long-term goal with every single one of our prospects, leads, connections, no matter what sort of marketing campaign you're doing, okay? Now, we've taken a lot of time diving into the manual process of this, okay? Now, with that being said, I want to show you how to speed up that process. This is where when somebody gets to a point in their business where they no longer have time to do the manual work on their side, this is where you can start implementing different elements, different pieces in order to increase the speed, the efficiency, and the scalability, okay? Money loves speed. And so everything that we do, we want to make sure that we are going as fast as possible in the most efficient and effective way possible, okay? So going back to the beginning of this, okay, we still have our optimized LinkedIn profile. The first thing that I recommend is instead of going out and instead of going and doing your searches on regular LinkedIn, we're going to go in, we're going to go in and we're going to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now, there's multiple reasons for LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator costs $99 a month. I don't get compensated if you use it, but if you're serious about doing your prospecting on LinkedIn, Sales Navigator is something that you have to have, because with Sales Navigator, you can do a lot deeper targeting of your ideal prospects, and you can take a lot more actions on LinkedIn. When you are doing a search for your prospects with regular LinkedIn, you're not going to see everybody that's on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to kind of filter that down or dumb that down a little bit. So yes, you're going to be able to see some people on there, but Sales Navigator is what allows you to see everybody on there. You can do a lot deeper targeting of occupations, business owners, specific areas. Sales Navigator is a must-have. Now, I mentioned before that with Sales Navigator, you're able to take a lot more action. So LinkedIn monitors how many actions you take on their platform on a daily basis, how many connection requests, how many messages, what are you posting? There are so many different things that they're monitoring. Now, with the some of the foundational metrics or foundational actions, connection requests are critical. We constantly want to be filling up this process right here. This is something that needs to happen on a daily basis. Now, with LinkedIn, regular LinkedIn, there's a limit to how many connection requests you can send out on a weekly basis. With Sales Navigator, they allow you to send more connection requests on a weekly basis. Now, what is that number? Nobody knows right now. What LinkedIn did probably about a year ago, starting 2 years ago, was they came in and they set a hard cap of how many connection requests you could send out on a weekly basis. It was a hard cap of 100 connection requests per week. Now, what they did starting about a year ago was now, instead of having that be a hard cap of 100 per week, now that is more algorithmically based, so that they're going to take a look at how many connection requests are you sending out, how many are being accepted, how many people are you messaging on LinkedIn, how many are messaging you back, are you doing other activities on the platform, and that algorithm is going to give you a score which can increase the number of connection requests that you can send out. So if somebody has a brand new profile on LinkedIn, you may only be able to send out 50 connection requests per week. However, we have some advisors that have sent out 600, 700, 800 connection requests per week without any issues. That is one of the reasons we want to have Sales Navigator, okay? Now, in addition to Sales Navigator, one of the things that you want to have inside of here is automation to speed up the process as well. Now, there are a number of different automation tools that you can use. Some are crap, some are great, and it's not a one size fits all. Now, if you're in our LinkedIn Lead Machine program, we open up exactly what LinkedIn automation tool that we use. What I like about the LinkedIn automation tool is a couple of different things. Number one is it gets connection requests out for you on a daily basis, regardless of whatever else you're doing. Regardless of whether you're on vacation, you're having meetings, you're spending time with your family, those connection requests are going out on a daily basis to your ideal audience. So you can get more first degree connections to send out more messages to. Now, additionally, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loop these together real quick. Now, additionally, what we want to do is we want to have LinkedIn automation on the direct messaging side. This is where a lot of advisors can get into a lot of trouble if they are not careful, because when they go out and they start sending direct messages using LinkedIn automation, they write the direct messaging scripts as if it's an automated program sending out those messages. And so it comes across as a robot. It comes across as salesy. It comes across as spammy. That is going to kill whatever you do on the LinkedIn side. Your best bet on LinkedIn is to have an organic, relationship-based approach to your prospects on LinkedIn, so they feel like they're getting to know you every step along the way. So as you go through and you implement automation on the direct messaging side, you need to write these scripts as if you're talking to somebody one-on-one. It has to happen. It has to come across as if you personally crafted that message specifically for that individual, okay? Now, with that, what we're doing, because we're implementing a physical book offer on the front end, is we're going through, and the first message that we send out, it alludes to what that book is, what it's going to help them accomplish, and then it asks them if they would be interested. It asks them if that's something that would interest them or that is applicable to them, okay? And that first message that goes out talking about our value-based offer, we are giving that individual a chance to join the conversation. So yes, that means that inside of the direct messages, we're using a combination of automation and manual messaging in order to make that come across the best. Is we want to make sure that that process is optimized. But again, it's a combination of efficiency and speed. One of the things that we tested out a while back was going through inside of this, after somebody connects with you, that first message that we sent out had the link over to where they could go request that book. What we found through our testing was that, again, going off of database decisions, is that including a link inside of that first message came across too forward, too fast, and too spammy. But when we came in and we were able to ask a question first to be able to give that person a chance to join the conversation, conversion rates increased dramatically, okay? Now, inside of there, with the LinkedIn automation, what you can do is if somebody doesn't respond in a given amount of time, you can send a second message and a third message and a fourth message and so on and so forth. There's a fine dance that you have to play with that, okay? Now, again, coming from the basis of the understanding that all of these messages on the direct message sequences have to be written conversationally, have to come across as if you typed it out one-on-one. The goal of those messages is number one, to bump your message back to the top of their inbox. What will happen is people are getting messages on LinkedIn day in and day out, okay? And if you send a message to somebody on Monday, by Friday, that may be 20, 30 messages deep. Or somebody went in, they opened your message, they got busy, forgot to go back and respond, even if they were interested. So with those messages, it's designed to bump your message back up to the top of the inbox, but then we can also add in some additional information about why they would want to take a look at that book, okay? So inside of, I think, the second or third message, that's the first time that we are telling somebody that we've created a landing page where they can go learn more about what that book is to see if they'd want to request it. Another great increase that we had in the conversion rates was adding that link into the second or third message and saying, hey, I created a quick little video that explains more about what you're going to find inside of the book. You can find that video here, right? Again, written conversationally, but it gets them over to the landing page. So if somebody's a little bit wary, which is 100% natural, if they're a little bit, they're like, man, I don't want to get sold to. I don't know if I want to start talking to somebody where they're going to start pitching me on something. By being able to get them over to that landing page, this is what allows them to explore more about that offer. And for the right audience who does have a need for those solutions, who does have a financial pain point that that book can solve, that's what allows them to then say, okay, I am willing to part with my contact information in order to get answers, in order to get what I need. So then again, they're off to the races. We have our follow-up call. We have all that good stuff, okay? Now, diving another step deeper is that one of the things that a lot of people don't realize on LinkedIn is that once you are connected with somebody on LinkedIn, the majority of the time, you can actually go through and go to their profile on LinkedIn, and you can grab their contact information from their profile. Now, this is something that you can do manually if you don't have this process, or if you're strapped for cash or whatever it might be. Completely understand. I've been there, right? But what we can do using the automation is we can go in and we can automatically use a webhook to pull that information for us. So now when we send that message to somebody on LinkedIn, now we can use that webhook to go grab their confirmation, add it to our CRM, and this is where we can start building up one of the most valuable assets that you will have in your business, which is an email list of your target audience, okay? So with that, now, instead of just relying on somebody seeing a LinkedIn message to be able to take advantage of that offer, if you're going after high value clients, these guys are busy. If they're a successful business owner, which a lot of us like to work with them, they have 45 other things on their plate that day other than messaging you back, other than going and requesting a book. But that doesn't mean they're dead, doesn't mean they're not qualified, doesn't mean they're not interested. We just simply have to take into account that they're busy. So now, because we're able to go through and grab their contact information, we can actually automate, again, using that powerful tool automation. We can now go and automate an email sequence to go out to that individual. Now, with that, you have to be extremely careful, because if you don't do this the right way, you're going to get a lot of people to report you as spam, to block you, to unsubscribe. So with this initial email sequence that goes out to somebody, you want to make sure that you are as value-based as possible. You are positioning as much value as you can right out the gate, so that they understand that you're not just selling to them, that you are actually there to help them out. You are there to be a resource and as a tool that they can lean on and rely on in order to solve their financial pain points. Now, from there, what I would say is on that first message, one of the things that's worked best for us is that first email that goes out is we say, hey, first name, I don't know if you saw this on LinkedIn, but I sent you a message. I'm offering this complimentary book. It'll show you how to do X, Y, and Z. You can learn more about it here, okay? Now, what that does is a couple of things for us. Number one is it tells that prospect how we got their contact information. It tells them, hey, I actually messaged you on LinkedIn, but I wanted to do my due diligence. I want to make sure that that message got to you because there's so much value in this book. That subtle nuance of them being able to understand how we got their information and why we're contacting them makes a world of a difference, both in the short term and in the long term. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to reiterate that offer on about that book offer that we give them on LinkedIn. Now, in the second message, one of the things that you can do if they have not requested that book, and there's different workflows and triggers, we're not going to get into this in this particular training, but when somebody goes through and if they have not ordered the book within a given amount of time, whether it's 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whatever it might be, we'll send them a second message and we'll say, hey, just checking in really fast. I don't think I saw your name come through requesting the book. Just want to make sure you got this, right? Now, from there, if they haven't requested the book after a couple of messages and a couple of emails, this is where most advisors are going to stop. But good advisors, great advisors understand that timing just may not be right with this individual. Timing just may not make sense. Again, not that they're not qualified, not that they're dead, not that they're not going to be interested, but they just haven't had a strong enough reason to move forward yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an additional email that goes out to that individual. Now with that, we're going to just, man, excuse me, keep blasting these guys with value, okay? So one of the things that we added inside of this initial sequence here is instead of just hammering that book offer to death, if somebody's gotten a couple of LinkedIn messages, they've gotten a couple of emails and they haven't taken advantage of that book offer, hey, that book offer may just not be, it may not be right for them, okay? But it doesn't mean that we need to stop the nurturing or stop the education. We can just start switching gears, okay? Now with that, one of the things that we have as part of this warm-up email sequence is a checklist that we offer these individuals. That's a very valuable checklist. Just saying, hey, here's some things that we recommend our clients review at least once a year, if not more. And I think there's like 64 points on that checklist. But again, it's just positioning value and showcasing that you are an information source. You are a resource. Now, with this checklist in particular, we have this structured as ungated content. Now, what I mean by ungated content is this is something that they do not have to opt in to get. There's a time and a place for that, 100%, okay? Now, I'll give you a couple examples. So with ungated content, this is where we're looking at giving value to somebody fast with as few friction points in between them and that value as possible, okay? Now, towards the beginning, something like this opt-in page, we do have that friction point where somebody has to give you their information in order to take the next steps, because we want to know right out the gate, who does this apply to? We want somebody to digitally raise their hand so that you know who you should focus your time, attention, and resources on, okay? Now, if somebody's gone through and they've been given that offer a few times, hey, we want to make sure that those people are sticking around for the long haul so we can continue to nurture them. So with that checklist, we're going to have this be ungated content that they can just click through from the email, get immediate access to that financial checklist. So they get that immediate hit of value, because we're not just concerned about short-term gains. We're looking for long-term success and scalability, okay? Now, from here, this is where you can start to get fancier. Things start to get really fun for us on our side, okay? Once somebody has come through and they've been offered all this information, they've been offered books, they've been offered checklists, this is where you can take a look as the business owner and say, hey, I've got all of these individuals inside of my CRM. I've got all of these, let's say you've been going out on LinkedIn, you've been targeting business owners, doctors, dentists. If that's who you're targeting on the LinkedIn side, and that's who you're sending out connection requests to, guess what? You have just built up one of the most valuable assets you're ever going to come across. You have a targeted list, a targeted email list of business owners, doctors, dentists. People pay really good money for that kind of information. Now, one thing I love about the LinkedIn side is in order for somebody to get a LinkedIn profile, they have to have an email address. They have to have that, a real email address that they monitor at least somewhat in order to create their profile. So this is highly refined data of individuals that you're going after, okay? Now, from there, you can start thinking, what's next? What can I do? What else can I put in front of these folks? Now, I'm going to go up. So let me give you an example of what we do for our agents and advisors. And remember, I said that there's a time and a place for gated content and how you structured things. So there's a company or an organization that we're working with right now to create a custom long-term marketing system. One of the things that this company has done a great job at doing is creating different white papers and PDFs and checklists and things like that that are typically delivered as a PDF. Now, the problem with that, and let me contrast that with what we had down here, okay? Remember on this side, I said we have the ungated content of like, hey, we're sending them directly to the checklist. It's a PDF they have access to. It's something that they get right away. Now, as we're going through the long-term structure of these campaigns, One of the things that you want to start doing is inside of your email sequences, instead of just giving somebody a PDF, instead of giving them something that they download or that they have access to, and it's literally a PDF, one of the things you want to start doing is taking your information and hosting it on a landing page that has a call to action to book a time with you. If that's your ultimate goal, which it should be, you want to make it as easy as possible and as abundantly clear as possible what that prospect needs to do in order, or what they can do in order to take the next steps with you. Okay. So what happens is, with this structure down here, the way that that company had structured everything before, is they were saying, hey, Mr. Advisor, hey, Mrs. Advisor, go ahead and send this PDF out to your prospects and to your leads. It has great information. It's going to generate a lot of interest, a lot of buzz, which it does. But in the process of doing that, when somebody gets that email, if they get excited enough to go out, click to get that checklist or that PDF, now you have created an additional barrier where now they have to get out of that PDF, go to your email or go to your website or go to your landing page or whatever in order to figure out how they can contact with you. Or worse, at the bottom of the PDF, it has your phone number on there. In today's world, people are not picking up the phone just to dial the local retirement planner. I wish they did. It would make things a lot easier, but that's just not the way that consumers operate today. So instead of just hosting that information on a PDF, what we're doing with this company is we're taking the exact same information that's in the PDF, because again, extremely valuable information, but instead we're hosting it on a landing page so that as somebody goes through and they consume that information, if they have that light bulb moment where they're just like, oh shoot, I've got to take action. I've got to figure out how to eliminate taxes in retirement, or eliminate stock market volatility, or I've got to figure out how to create a private pension that guarantees I never run out of money. Right there, you'll see on each of these pages, right here is a button that takes them over to your calendar. That is going to increase conversion rates exponentially if you simply change around that structure to where you eliminate barriers that somebody has to take in order to meet with you, in order to get on your calendar. Now, one of the things that I'll caution as well is that a lot of advisors in this process will start going through and they'll start doing the beginning phase of the campaign right. If you're in our school group, which the majority of you should be, there's a YouTube video that I put out by Alex Hormozy, I think about a week or 2 weeks ago. But inside of that video, he talks about a few different phases that entrepreneurs go through, regardless of what industry they're in, regardless of what they're doing on the marketing side. But he talks about how you have uninformed optimism right out the gate. Uninformed optimism is you don't know what you don't know, but because you don't know what you don't know, you're extremely excited about it. Okay. Now, what happens is as you start getting into this, maybe you have less leads coming through than you thought, or maybe it's more work than you thought, which is what I find a lot of times with agents and advisors, regardless of what marketing campaign you're doing. But what happens is you start figuring out, okay, hey, just because I've got 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 first degree connections, I've still got to figure out how to follow up with people, right? Now, what happens is you get into this little downward trend of what's called informed pessimism, where you realize, hey, one touch point just typically isn't enough to convert somebody from a prospect into a paying client. There's multiple emails, there's multiple phone calls, you got to have meetings that you get because there's that informed, you have more information, you get that informed pessimism. Now, what happens is you bottom out at what's called the valley of despair. Now, inside of that valley of despair, this is where I see a lot of agents, a lot of advisors, a lot of retirement planners jump ship, whether they start looking for a shinier object or they think the grass is greener on the other side, or you guys know the insurance statistics better than I do. What's the average lifespan of somebody in the industry? A year, 2 years? That's where a lot of people will jump ship and just exit the industry entirely. But if you can push through that valley of despair, then you have what's called informed optimism. And that's what we try to create through this follow-up system that we have right here, to where you're able to stay in front of prospects on a regular basis without needing to go out and figure out how to do it manually, without trying to figure out what's the next marketing campaign or email or whatever it might be. But that is when your business starts to scale dramatically. One of our advisors, we've seen this happen and finally made the turn this year, where this advisor has had multiple six-figure years. Okay, so making multiple six figures, doing well in the business. But What happened was, is as we were going through this process, there was there was that valley of despair that was hit where it's like, shit, this is a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff that I've got to do. Okay. We were able to push through that. Now, what's happening and what we're seeing inside of that advisor's business is that people are now circling back to that advisor after being inside of these nurturing sequences for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. One of the prospects that booked on the advisor's calendar last week was somebody who connected with the advisor on LinkedIn about 3+ years ago, has received 97 follow-up emails in that time frame and finally booked the first appointment. Now, the reason why I got so excited and the advisor got so excited was because this is somebody we were nurturing people and helping the advisor make money throughout the entire process. But now all the fruits of the labor are finally starting to pay off, even better than they were, to where people are now circling back because we didn't stop, because we kept going. Even through the months where you feel like you're crawling through glass, we're able to continue to push forward. And now that advisor's doing, I'm on track to hit 1 million this year in commission, life and health only. Okay. So that being said, I know we covered a lot today. So let me know what questions you guys have. Happy to be a resource for you. And I think we have a question on here. Will I have access to this recording? This is a lot of information to digest. Yeah, this was a lot to digest. I'll make sure to get you the information there. So once the recording is done processing, I'll get it out to you. Yeah, and then let me know what additional questions you have. But appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.